BLM and Antifa domestic terrorists are bailed out and supported by our now Vice President Kamala Harris. George Floyd died on May 25th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. As you see here, on June 1st, we have then Senator Kamala Harris and then Vice Presidential candidate for the United States tweeting a link to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, encouraging people, if you're able, chip in now, spend some more money, to the Minnesota Freedom Fund to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota. But yet we know what was going on. These were not protests. These were violent riots. I'm sorry, you can't stand in front of a city on fire and people fighting and say, it's a protest, it's a riot, and it's not peaceful. In fact, Kamala Harris and, unfortunately, my own colleague from Minneapolis, Ilhan Omar, have shared links to the Minnesota Freedom Fund with their millions of Twitter followers. And you know what? It raised a lot of money for the Minnesota Freedom Fund. In August, the Minnesota Freedom Fund reported that it had raised $35 million in donations. Yes, when the Democrat candidate for the Vice President of the United States says donate to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, people donated. When the Congresswoman from Minneapolis, Minnesota, shared on her Twitter to millions of followers and said, pointed down, meaning follow suit, donate, guess what? They raised $35 million. And guess what happened from that?
Marjorie Taylor Greene just rocked the House floor with some bold accusations, and she's not holding back. Recently, Greene took aim at Vice President Kamala Harris and Representative Ilhan Omar, calling them out for supporting and helping bail out protesters during the 2020 unrest. But Greene's not just talking about peaceful demonstrations. She's specifically calling out BLM and Antifa protesters, labeling them as domestic terrorists.
As a result of all the money raised by then Senator Kamala Harris and then the Democrat Vice President candidate of the United States, now our current Vice President, and current Congresswoman from Minneapolis, Minnesota, 184 domestic terrorist criminals that rioted, 184 of them were bailed out from the Minnesota Freedom Fund. The criminals they helped bail out include a woman who shot at the SWAT team, another woman who is accused of killing her own friend, and a convicted rapist. That's just a few of the people that were bailed out with the money raised directly for the Minnesota Freedom Fund by then Senator Kamala Harris and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, shared on their own Twitter pages. Can you imagine if a Republican congresswoman or congressman or a Republican senator or a Republican president shared a bail bond link and said bail out the protesters from January 6th? Can you imagine the result of that? It would be unreal. There has been no lashback. There has been no consequences. There has been no action taken from this irresponsibility, supporting domestic terrorists who are responsible for violence, crime, and costing the innocent American people an exorbitant amount of money, stress, ruining communities, ruining people's livelihoods, and tearing apart our country. No accountability whatsoever.
Let's rewind. In the wake of George Floyd's tragic death on May 25, 2020, Minneapolis erupted in protests, some peaceful, some not. On June 1st, then-Senator Kamala Harris tweeted out a link to the Minnesota Freedom Fund, urging her followers to donate and help post bail for protesters. Ilhan Omar shared that same link with her massive audience. The result? The Minnesota Freedom Fund raked in a staggering $35 million in donations by August. Greene claims this money freed 184 people involved in the riots. And get this, among those bailed out, according to Greene, a woman who allegedly shot at a SWAT team, another accused of killing her own friend, and even a convicted rapist. Yeah, those are some serious allegations. Here's where Greene fires back even harder. She says, imagine if a Republican had posted bail fund links for January 6th protesters. She argues there'd be instant backlash, consequences, and accountability. But for Harris and Omar, she claims there's been none. The speech didn't stop there. Greene criticized Democratic lawmakers for pushing to defund police departments, pointing to H.R. 1280, a bill that would remove qualified immunity for police and put officers on public misconduct lists, even if accusations weren't proven. She highlighted Los Angeles, where the LAPD lost $150 million in funding. That cut dissolved their sexual assault unit, leaving victims without specialized support. Harris even applauded the funding cuts. And what happened next? According to Greene, Louisiana shootings rose by 73%. The murder rate? Up 200% from the previous year. Turning to Minneapolis, by November 2020, Greene argued the evidence was clear. This wasn't just protest, it was violence and destruction. She cited 700 buildings damaged, burned, or destroyed in Omar's district, with 1,500 businesses heavily hit. For small business owners, already shaken by COVID-19 shutdowns, Congress's focus on the January 6th attack felt like a slap in the face. Greene's message, where's the support for victims of the 2020 riots? And the human cost? Greene says at least 25 Americans died as a direct result of BLM and Antifa-related violence in 2020. No matter where you stand politically, these are tough questions and Greene's not letting them slide. What do you think? Is there a double standard or is this just politics as usual? Let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe for more news you won't hear anywhere else.